Does anyone else like a nice loaf of zucchini bread? Because I don't know what they did to this one, but it is delicious. I've just got this tray of zucchini bread next to me. I'm just shoving handfuls into my face. It's delicious. But maybe if you're not into sweet baked goods, maybe you like some Dune Spice Wars. And today we are spectating a high-end pro-level match. Ought to be a good time here. We've got T and B over on the Fremen, Cream on House Corino, Yvain on the House Vernius, and Ziz over on the Harkonnens. We're on a standard medium map here and ought to be having a good time. We see that right away our Harkonnen friends, look at this wild spawn. They're basically adjacent, you could just see the polar sink. You could probably throw a rock and hit it. It's very, very central spawn for Carthage here, down on Ziz and the Harkonnens. He goes ahead and he grabs his spice first, plus 10% production on the region. You don't hate to see that. And he's looking around. He's starting his pillaging. He's gone for a trooper and 2 Cerberus, 3 Cerberus. Going for the early Cerberus DPS. That's interesting. Usually you see a gunner, but maybe he likes the Cerbs. He's got himself some rare elements next to him. He's got some energy. He got 2 sets of energy resources, though to the east, it is not too far to get to the Fremen. So we'll see how that goes for him. And honestly, it's not too far to get to Vernius either, who are pretty hemmed in and are going to want to expand straight east through this Mount Idaho, which will already put them perilously close to the Harkonnens. It's an interesting spawn. It's looking pretty good for Cream, who spawned sort of way up in the boonies by himself with not a lot around him. We'll analyze that a little later. Let's check the backfield for the Harkonnens here. So he's got his starting spice. There's a second spice to the southeast, but this desert also is the only option for a deep desert surround for the Fremen over with T&B here. So I wouldn't be surprised if this was all sort of contested Fremen territory, including 2 spice fields down here. Very nice. Further to the southwest, there's 1 spice down there, and way to the west, there's 1 other spice, so that one's probably Vernius. So not a ton of spice opportunities for Ziz and the Harkonnens here. He does have the space wreck in his backfield. Way to the west is the Well of Riches. Maybe he could get that. There is a crescent ridge down there. To the east is an acid lakes. Some okay special regions and a lot of just territory in general. Having a lot of territory is nice because the Harkonnens run on a very heavy pillage economy. They love to have a lot of stuff that they don't need to take, so they can go down and just repeatedly burn these villages to the ground over and over and over again and just extract the wealth from the native populace. We'll see how that goes for them. Headed to the west, over on Yvain on House Vernius. Oh, and I didn't mention the counselors. The Harkonnens have Uman Kudu and Peter de Vries. Peter is great. He's usually considered one of the more higher skill counselors because you need to know what you're doing with them. He lets you sacrifice your agents to reduce the cost of your operations, which can be really incredibly powerful if you really lean into it. There's a long walk across the desert. Are the Harkonnens trying to grab this super fast before Vernius gets there? Maybe so. Early game Vernius, the Suboi's armies can't really compete with anyone else's armies, so I wouldn't be surprised if he's just trying to secure this sort of principal territory. Mount Idaho, of course, is an incredible early game pickup because it gives you a bunch of extra plascrete, and just about everybody's pretty hungry for plascrete in the early game. I gotta think this is gonna be an annex. Is it gonna be? Do it, Ziz. Go on, do it. He's gonna annex it. I'm gonna call it right here. He's sitting on it. He's waiting it. I'm sure he's waiting for the authority to do so. That's gonna stifle our Vernius friends. They're not gonna love that, but we'll see how it goes. Anyway, Vernius over here picked up the early spice field, picked up early energy sources, early abandoned Imperial station. All fun stuff to have. He has easy 1 spice, easy 2 spice. The Harkonnens did manage to take Mount Idaho. They're going to want to fortify that up because Vernius won't be too pleased with it. There's a 3rd spice down low. I think he ought to be able to grab that one, and this is probably a bit too far. He does have the Desolation to the north, and we've talked about it in the past. The Desolation is generally seen as a disadvantage. This, it's a special region that you can't take, and you would have much rather it have spawned as a special region that was anything else that you could take. And not only is it a special region you can't take, but it didn't even block off the path here. Normally you see it as sort of a choke point and makes it so you can't even, it combines with a deep desert and makes it so you can't go north. But he can still sort of snake around the outside here if he wants to expand up into Corino territory. And there is a worm nest way, way in the north. It's a stretch, but not totally out of the realm of possibility, depending on which sort of direction Cream expands with his House Corino there. First Landsraad pops up. Territory contest is really nice if you've got a special region already, and we did see the Harkonnens grab something. Corino makes all factions gain 300, so everybody could get a little bit of free money, and rarely do you see people pushing statecraft too early in the game, though there's a couple early tier techs you wouldn't hate to pick up, so we might see people lean into that if in case this passes. Excuse me. And not overly exciting, and looks like we do have long Landsraad timers on, and these lads are all in a Discord chat room together, so they are chatting it up about what's going to happen. Everything passes, all factions, all factions, all factions. We'll see. That might slow things down a little bit as people pivot and grab blue tech for the next 20 days or so. But we'll see how it goes. Does anyone else have a special region? Just the Harkonnens sitting on one right now. I wonder if they want to grab another. It would be fairly easy to grab the Polar Sink for themselves. It's also very close to their other village, so interesting little bunker opportunity. Not only that, but the village to the east here, while this village is a little further away, it might be harder to defend, but there is a little rock here, so you could put this village's missile turret here, and then these 3 missile turrets defend at least those 2 villages, but this one maybe... This village could still be under threat from the Fremen, so it doesn't work perfectly. Vernius, anyways, are headed south, doing some pillaging, trying to figure out the lay of the land and where they're going to send their lines. Easy. 2 combine harvesters already online. He's actually got a 3rd harvester created, but nowhere to send it yet. I'm guessing he's going to annex this village. He can't take this one because it would be adjacent to 2 spots with the purple line already. So what he's going to do is he's going to send the purple line through the deep desert over to here. And once he does that, then this southern spice field will be adjacent and he can put this combine harvester to work. Always a little bit of an interesting thought experiment of how you're going to route your neural node, your nodal network with House Vernius. They play very uniquely in that way. But once you get used to bouncing them through the deep deserts especially, it becomes a little more easy to figure out. I imagine he's waiting on the authority to get that annex. He did pillage this, so he didn't go for the early Plascrete. He's probably going to instead add Plascrete in each of these lands he takes. Vernius very Plascrete hungry, especially because he's got Bolig, who we see taken probably a majority of the time these days. Bolig says you could build multiple buildings in your S-Vault, your main base, at the same time, and if you remove those buildings, you get refunded, and for each one you build, for each district you build, you'll get 1 knowledge. So typically what you see is you see a rainbow. You build a yellow, a blue, and a red, a yellow, a blue, and a red, a yellow, blue, and a red, and then boom, you're pumping out 9 knowledge from it, and you're getting 3 times the initial district bonus of an extra 45% to your, reducing the cost of all your developments. Just lets you burn through the tech tree, gives you a ton of knowledge to work with, and then once you get more towards the end game, you can refund them and rebuild it out to get sort of the tier 3 district bonuses, like extra votes or maybe extra health on your military units, so on and so forth. So it's just a very flexible pick for Vernius. So he is starting to expand southward a little bit. He doesn't even need to take this. He could keep this as a pillage here and then bounce all the way down to the Well of Riches, which would probably be a good choice for him. Again, going through the deep desert. That would be a nice pickup. The village is very sort of favored towards him, even though it's sort of a long, wide region. Just because the village is way on the west side, it's going to make the Harkonnens have a long walk to get there. So I wouldn't be surprised if Vernius grabbed that pretty soon, too. And he'll need it because he doesn't have a lot of specials to work with. Well of Riches he can grab. Mount Idaho, obviously the Harkonnens have already grabbed, though that could be a point of contestation, a point of a bit of friction between the two empires, as it were. Up north, again, of course, we talked about the Desolation, sort of took out whatever that special could have been, and way, way north is the Worm Nest, though I wouldn't be surprised if maybe Cream tried to, on House Corino, solidify that. So, you know, there's some good resources he'll have access to, but with lacking special regions, hegemony is going to be real tough for Vernius. He's going to need to get pretty fighty here in order to secure stuff from the Harkonnens. Even if you take over Mount Idaho, which I think he ought to be able to do at some point in the game, it's still going to be tough. He's going to make pretty decent money because he's already got 3 spice online. If we look at the spice, Vernius is pulling in 90 a day. Only 29 for the Harkonnens, 28 for Corino, 42 for the Fremen. So Vernius, big early spice producers, and if he gets the Well of Riches here, he's got another southern spice field, so potentially a relatively easy 4 spice for Vernius even. So he's going to make money, but the hedge is going to be tough because the map generation has not been favorable to him as far as special region distribution. Let's take a look at Corino. Oh, and the other council he had was Bronzo Vernius, which is villages neighboring a single Vernius region are 20% less authority to annex. And that plays into Vernius' hegemony play, and he's going to need it because he's going to need to reach pretty far out from his main base to be taking a lot of stuff. Up on House Corino, we have, of course, Princess Urulon allowing them to build double buildings, and Hasimir Fenring, a very common, very safe option, gives you a little extra boost in getting agents online, allows you to pull the points of interest, these little, abandoned Fremen camps or ruins or whatever anything you could find, allows you to pull them off the map immediately when you start the game, even without having counselors, allows you to pull them off the map at maximum speed, and allows you to pull them off the map even in places that are far from your home region. So just gives you just a little bit of extra flexibility. He works great. Everybody likes Hasimir. Now, we do see some interesting terrain around Corino. They've got a very convenient second spice. They don't hate that. They've opted to grab, right off the bat, their Plascrete to the east, and to the south, a research station. Oh, it's a nice one, actually. Why do I say it's a nice one? It's an abandoned Imperial research station, so it pays out 20 Solari per research hub in the area. And it's got the scientist quirk, allowing you to build extra research hubs in it. And because it's adjacent to the main base, it's doubling the quirks. He's already building his 4th research hub here. Oh my god. Let's click on... see what this is making. Anyways, second Landsraad coming up. We'll look at that ridiculous research hub region in a second. Infrastructure control is a huge one. Corino loves us early. Vernius loves us early. Everybody loves us early. But Corino's got the most votes right now, so he could claim it if he wanted to. Although we'll see if he opts to... No, it looks like I don't think he didn't put the Imperial Edict, so he's going to try and grab that for himself, I would assume. Water subsidies would be great news for the Harkonnens, who would get free access to the middle, though it is pillaged for 6 more days. Trial of the Great Houses would actually put... it does pass, courtesy of the Fremen, putting House Harkonnen and House Vernius into the pits. Low Landsraad standing for them. House Corino manages to avoid it by just the fact that they start at a higher base level of Landsraad. And we do see the Corino lay claim to the infrastructure controls, just as we expected. And water subsidies does pass, courtesy of the House's Minor. So that's probably good news for the Harkonnens there. Wow. Anyways, let's look at this. So we've switched to their point of view. Currently making 6 knowledge and 89 Solari from this single region. What a jackpot. Just an incredible pickup. And once he goes ahead and picks up his Imperial Administration, which he has, it unlocks the investment office. He can go ahead and pop a 5th building here as the investment office, which will add yet another bonus to the scientist's trait, allowing him to put a 6th building in here that is the research hub. Holy moly, that'll be an incredible. This is just a god tier placement. Starting the game with an extra 100 Solari and 6 knowledge just from a single region. Oh my god. It's amazing. It's too much for me. I can't even handle it. Over to the east, actually, he's also got some really fabulous traits on this one. This one's paying out 20% economic buildings. It's minerals, so he's built double plascrete on it. He's built a investment office to up that as well. So this single region is spitting out 58 plascrete. Oh, wow. Really incredibly fortunate spawn for Vernius. Or not Vernius, Corino. Likewise, his primary spice region has a payoff of bartering customs, giving you a little extra Solari per your economic buildings. Spice region is a region you're already going to be building a lot of economic buildings in, so it's just an easy extra money on top of it. Oh, wow. Wow, wow, wow. And this one's fine to the west, allows him to put some blue and some red stuff there to take advantage of statecraft and military building perks. It's not incredible, but a good one. But all in all, just an outrageously beneficial start for Corino. Now, let's take a look at the larger land. So he's also probably a little sad that there's a desolation to the west, but it's not the worst thing in the world for him. He does have the worm nest up there, which I imagine he could take. So again, there's an easy 2 spice, maybe 3 or 4 spice, though we do see TMB's gone a little aggressive heading up north and laying quick claim to the Sandfall region, and then the 2 spice fields adjacent to it I'm sure will have harvesting teams on them before long. But those are still pretty close to Corino territory. I wouldn't be surprised if that gets contested. Also because the Fremen, like we see them snaking down south, are very likely to try to get this deep desert surround, which is going to keep his attention more southernly, and we see that it's already... the Harkonnens have grabbed this spice field, which is going to be no bueno for relations between Harkonnens and Fremen. We'll see how that goes. We've got a pretty big army up for Ziz already. He's expecting to fight, sitting at 43 of 45 CP. Something might have happened with our Vernius friends, because they are sitting currently at 16 CP. I don't know if it's just attrition, or if maybe they got their teeth kicked in by some Harkonnens when we weren't watching. Probably just attrition, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. 39 of 40 on the Fremen, looking strong. 32 of 40 on House Corino. So everyone's going for the big early military, knowing that these are generally some pretty aggressive players here. So wouldn't be surprised to see people get their teeth kicked in if they're not taking the necessary precautions. Again, we are so barely halfway through month 2 here. So let's take a little bit of a deeper look at the Corino territory. He's got some good rare elements, some more minerals. Maybe if he goes forward, there's some fuel, but otherwise there is a notable lack. Oh, I guess there's one more fuel in his backfield, so that's okay. He's got some fuel to work with. Special region, he's got a worm nest back there. If he pushes forward more towards the middle, there's an Imperial Basin and there is a Moondew Vale. Both would be reasonable Corino pickups because they're really only sort of 2 spaces out from his main base, so they shouldn't be too expensive to pick up. 164 authority on that one, 200 authority on that one. So those could conceivably be Corino pickups. Corino, again, really, just like everybody else, really loves special regions, but also because if Corino is going to have any chance at hegemony gameplay, he needs to be able to lock down as many special regions as possible so that he can lean into the craft workshops. You know, you very, very often see, and we do have the Fremen already working to liberate the Harkonnen spice field around this desert. Is it a liberate? They're just sitting on it right now. I'm not sure if they are actually liberating it. Okay, there it is. It is getting liberated. One day the Fremen will want to make that theirs because they're looking like they might be able to enact their deep desert surround. Now there is not a deep desert or really much of anything in between Corino and the Fremen. This is just open territory. There's a little bit of mountains, but just a small mountains. Otherwise, there's just land. But we're seeing again, Harkonnens are pillaging, and they are standing inside of Vernius lands. What does the diplomacy look like? All right, non-aggression between Vernius and the Harkonnens. Vernius was trying to get the cap off of this region before the Harkonnens, but maybe the Harkonnens swept in and they got it first, I'm guessing. I don't know if Vernius wanted to annex that or just keep it from getting annexed, but they are at peace with each other. We've got peace between Fremen and Vernius and Harkonnens. Also, research agreements up, also an additional trade agreement up between Vernius and the Harkonnens. Nobody friends with Cream right now, but that's all right. He is gonna just be sitting home, feeling rich, thanks to his pretty incredible land pickups here. Just making an outrageous amount of money off of nothing, not even counting spice. He's doing pretty well in the spice market too. Third Landsraad pops up. Landsraad investigations, no big deal. Nobody cares about that. Scientific Congress. Now that's an interesting one, but I imagine people are probably already working through their red trees. If they're not, this will be a priority. Certainly by month 3 is about when I advise people, new players especially, that you need to start thinking about your red tech. If we look at Fremen, the Fremen are almost done with their red tree. They're going hard at it. If we look at Corino, they've been hanging back, but they've got it all queued up. Vernius, nothing much. They've got it all queued up. Harkonnens also not much, but all queued up because Scientific Congress did pass, so everybody is switching over and getting their red tech. Research investments also passed, but you would want to put a priority on the military tech over the economy tech, and that's because you can expect all of your neighbors to be putting a priority on their military tech, and you really don't want to end up sitting at 40 command points in your armies if your neighbor is at 55 or 65. That's just asking for trouble. So we did have that liberation. We do see the Fremen in the east continuing their surround. So all in all, let's say after looking at Corino's spot, they've got a fabulous initial starting resources and villages, and some good opportunities to expand to. It'll sort of remain to be seen if they're able to push forward and take some of these two important special regions in the front. But it looks like Vernius is maybe putting a little more emphasis on heading south. I don't know if they're going to head north. They will eventually, of course, because they're gonna just want to expand. But we'll see what that looks like. Meanwhile, to the east, on T and B, Dr. Liet Kynes, the Fremen. We've already seen some aggro. They're button heads with the Harkonnens, and they did grab this extremely cheeky forward region, Bur al-Ha here, literally adjacent to the Harkonnens' main base. Pretty aggressive, and this is not even a region for surrounding the desert, but these two villages are relatively close to each other. So again, you've got the bunker situation where the eastern region can build their missile turret close enough to the western region here that it'll be able to surround and defend it. So functionally, to attack into this village, you have to not only kill the militia and whatever defenders, but you've got 2 missile turrets probably firing at you. This is already fortified with a military base up here. Cheeky grab, but it doesn't look like the Harkonnens can do anything about it. And we've got aggression down south. It looks like Fremen were able to find a forward Harkonnen pillaging force, catch them out, and are gonna wipe them and punish them pretty badly. Ooh, that's a hurt for Ziz. It's super tough to contest with the Fremen early in the game, even if you've got equal military numbers. And it looks like the scavenging team was out by the Fremen, so I don't even see a hidden tracks. But the Fremen are able to use their hidden tracks, what's the word? Their mission, their operation. The hidden tracks allows them basically to go invisible and just jump up on top of you when you're not expecting it. And because it affects adjacent regions, right? You could drop hidden tracks back here, and while your army runs all the way over here right on top of the Harkonnens, and they never see you coming. So it's just so hard to get a favorable engagement against the Fremen early in the game. Even if you do have a military built up, it doesn't take much. You know, if the Fremen army jumps on your ranged units when you're not quite ready for them, it can just tilt it in your favor, or their favor. So we do see Harkonnens rebuilding, and they're going into a very heavy Executioners and Cerberus. So this is a pretty common one. So what you see is the Cerberuses, they run in and they die and they split and they die again, and those deaths are jacking up the bloodthirsty bonuses on the Executioners, and then the Executioners who are left cut through whatever is surviving. It's a very powerful comp. It works pretty well against the Fremen. We'll see how it goes. Right now, there's just a huge military disparity. The Fremen sitting at 40 of 55. Oh, I guess the Harkonnens are actually up to 44 too. He rebuilt very quickly there. He's a little okay. He's finished out his red tech. The Fremen, of course, have theirs done real well. Funny enough, Vernius hasn't gone any red. He's gone heavy green, heavy yellow. I guess he's counting on his non-aggression pact with the Harkonnens, and the Harkonnens being quite busy with the Fremen to keep Vernius safe for a while, because he is not leaning into the military whatsoever, but has started to push northwards. So we'll see how that goes. And we do have the base drop from Cream north with Corino. He's opted for a safe back base drop that allows him to have full authority over the Worm's Nest. Will allow him to double the additional traits around these regions. So we can see that there's one region that I wasn't too bullish on early, because it was just 3 Solari per statecraft building, 3 Solari per military building. Well, if you multiply those bonuses by 4 and then you build all blue and all red buildings, suddenly it's actually starting to be pretty lucrative, making 106 Solari a day out of that single region. The region down here with the research hubs, 126 a day, 8 knowledge. These are incredible numbers, folks. And likewise, he's got even pretty good ones to this little nothing village over here. Has 20% resource production and +3 for Solari. So he's just putting a bunch of blue buildings over there and getting a bunch of money from it. It's wild how good some of these traits are for Corino. He's making 300. He's making the most amount of money per day. He is selling a bit, but the rates aren't that great. He's actually, the spice is pretty competitive. 134 a day on Fremen, 119 a day on Corino, 141 Vernius, and only 60 on the Harkonnens. Harkonnens have had a little bit of trouble. Just the stuff that they want is so spread out, and the Fremen are such a thorn in their side. It's a little tricky. They'll be strong once they're able to maybe solidify their position a little more. If they don't expect any trouble from Vernius, if Vernius is able to sort of maintain that peace treaty, there's a lot of territory for the Harkonnens to work with here. But we do see it being gobbled up by the greedy Fremen already. And this heavy emphasis in the south is leaving Corino, free to do whatever they want up north. He's able to pillage whatever he wants. He's able to annex whatever he wants. And we'll just see how it goes if you just leave a Corino all alone. I'm sure nothing bad could ever come from that. Gear regs comes up. Economic investigations and diplomatic congress. I don't know that gear regs would be that impactful right now. Although we could see the Harkonnens just stick it on the Fremen out of spite. We could see Fremen are probably looking pretty solid right now in the wider lobby, so I wouldn't be surprised if just in general people put it on the Fremen. Economic investigations, probably not that big of a deal. Vernius already has finished out the entirety of their tree and are giving it to everybody but Corino, who has already gotten everything he wants. Chome manipulation, crew training program, integrated costs. These are all your key yellow techs for Corino. Geothermals and riches of Arrakis are just a little bit of gravy on top if you happen to get those particular things. We do see the gear regs, courtesy of the Harkonnens, put on the Fremen. Economic investigations does pass, so less econ development, but that shouldn't matter. Diplomatic Congress, Fremen grab it for themselves and also with a little help from Corino. So Fremen get truced with everybody. And we are very near to the deep deserts around TMB is just, oh, it's already underway. It's already getting annexed here. So this deep desert surround is almost done, and he's got the tech for it queued up, but he's already being given it by Vernius anyways. So once he gets that surround up, he's got 20% authority production per controlled deep desert. It grants all the neighboring villages to that desert 2 more quirks, or 2 more times of their existing quirks rather, and a little extra 20% to the militia's power. Let's take a look at some of these villages. Are any of these things? He's grabbed them all so quickly. He hasn't even had time to really build stuff in them. But, oh, this is a pretty nice one. No, it's only a 3 wind. I was going to say this one, 100% of your water production sold as Solari would be incredible, but it's only a 3 wind. If it was a 5 wind, it would be amazing. Down here, he's got little extra recruitment offices. Down here, this one could pay out for Plascrete and economic buildings if you wanted to go that route. Over here, this doesn't hurt. Extra 20% experience for your military units times 3, so that's a nice boost to your military XP. Nothing incredible, but you know, it's still nice to have the times 3. Oh, he's got another one. Another times 3 of 20% XP, so he's getting plus 120% XP on all military units doing any sort of fighting. This is going to be a very sauced up Fremen army very soon. And it looks like we got a renegade base drop. That's perfect. You love to see that as Fremen, because you're likely to have an army already that can deal with it. He's probably got himself, I would expect to see a scav teams dropped. There it is. Scav teams pays out money for the health of dying units. So it's just a nice economic boon to come in here and clean up this renegade base. Big money pays out a little extra of your guild favor, or in this case, I think it's what, space wreckage, space parts for the Fremen to be able to get up their big spaceship. So it's a great thing to see. You love being able to clear out an early renegade patch. We do see Corino expanding westward. I probably, in part to just prevent the Vernius from coming up anymore. Vernius they do have a combine harvester here, just kind of floating around in the desert. He wanted to be harvesting down south, but the Harkonnens took that. He wanted to take one more region so he could be harvesting up here too, but no such good. So we've just got a lonely harvester just hanging out in the desolation. I guess it serves as a bit of a scout harvester for now, but he's paying upkeep on it. So he might not want to do that forever. Probably best to just shut that harvester down, decommission it, as it were. And Corino finally moving in to lay claim to the Worm Nest. Worm Nest is always an important economic region, pays out extra 25% spice for the region in general. Not amazing quirks on it for him to work with, but no one's going to say no to bonus spice. And with that, it's a very easy 3+ spice for Corino. Should be very economically strong. Let's take a look at the Chome market real quick here. Not a lot of movement at all. House Corino bought up some shares. They start with 50, so he's picked up an extra sort of 75 on top of that. Purchase price at 104, so 2,000 to buy 20. It's not a great price, but it's fine. Let's look at our resources. So pretty even money, daily money between Vernius and Corino. Harkonnens and the Fremen are a bit more poor, and we do have Harkonnens marching through territory, just pillaging for now. Of course, we did see that truce go up between the Fremen and the Harkonnens thanks to the Landsraad. So the Harks are using that just to run out there and run through Fremen land without worrying about things. And I think he wants this. Nope, he's pillaging. I was going to say, I think he wants the annex, but pillaging is fine right now. Pillaging for Harkonnens, of course, means you could just come back and get that annex at a later time, even for a discount, of course, because of the Harkonnen Instill Fear. Every time you pillage a village, it gets another stack of Instill Fear on it, meaning it is 10% authority cost reduced if you want to annex it. super powerful tech, always one of the most important things to pick up early for the Harkonnens, so that as you're pillaging the world to extract resources from everything, you're also sort of setting up your future expansion to put the instill fear buffs on these regions to make them cheaper to pick up later on. We do have Fremen marching south. I'm sure they're a little uncomfortable with these Harkonnens having their way with all this territory that the Fremen would rather be pillaging themselves. But he's got his deep desert, he shouldn't complain. Vernius to the west, offering trade deals with House Harkonnens. See what comes of that. And is he taking things? This one's devastated, but it's about to fall off, and the Vernius army is sitting there just waiting for the day that they could attack this poor village. And now it is free. I'm going to guess he's going to annex it, because he is boxed the F in here. Vernius really likes to stretch their arms, as it were, and really sort of reach out and grab far-flung territory. There's the annex. He's stuck in his front door, blocked off by Harkonnens. The north is blocked off by a staunch line of Corino, and even if he wanted to go that way, there's a very immediately he runs into an Imperial base. So even aggression up there doesn't make a lot of sense. Yet another Landsraad comes out for the middle of month 4. Foreign recruitment, I don't think, moves the needle right now. No one's probably concerned about manpower. We haven't seen a lot of sort of attritional warfare or anything like that. Imperial missionaries, always nice to pick up, and I think it looks like Corino might be leaving that unaltered with edicts because he wants to grab it himself. We do see the Imperial audit get adjusted via the Imperial edict, but the Fremen have gone ahead and thrown a dissent on that as well. Everybody would love a little bit more Landsraad standing, but nobody loves Fremen rebellions. Though I suppose since it's relatively peaceful on the map right now, they'll be easy enough to clean up. These are much worse when you're as sort of a micro tax, when your army's busy doing things, or you're out pillaging, you're out sort of away from home. And it even fails thanks to the minor houses. Foreign recruitment passes. Fremen put their influence into that. I guess they wanted some cheaper manpower. House Vernius actually has grabbed this one. Corino did not manage to secure it, despite giving 150 votes into it. Vernius dumped all of their 270. So a little extra money for the Vernii. Oh, and we did have war down south. I totally missed it, I'm sorry. We saw the Fremen army moving down. I told you they wouldn't have liked the Harkonnens in this land. And we did see hiding tracks here, so exactly what I said. He sent his army invisible, caught the Harkonnens while they were pillaging stuff, swept in on them, and cleaned them up. Ooh, Fremen are really terrible neighbors to have, let me tell you. But we already see immediately 6 new executioners trained. The Harkonnens are prepared for some attrition, and they are making new guys. Their manpower is quite low, actually. They're only 30 a day is fine, but not if you need to replace your entire army. They're actually out of manpower currently. And the Fremen, who got the 50% cheaper, are making 43 a day, 45 a day now, and are already almost full, or at least halfway full, nearly 300. So if they needed to replace their losses, that would be no big deal. We might continue to see a bit more bullying of the Harkonnens by the Fremen. But meanwhile, up north, the House Corino continues to cackle in peace and security. If we take a look at the faction summary, we could see already 12 a day from Corino. That's easy. That's just from their Emperor's Monument existing. And he did opt for early military build, though he certainly didn't need to. It's been very quiet up here. He went Research Center and Emperor's Monument for the two blue. He went 1 into the Administrative Hall, and then he went 3 reds for the military investments. And the reason that's important, of course, is because the Emperor's Monument, which he could either build in one base or the other base, doubles the district bonuses in the base that he chose to build it. So he's getting 2 times plus 20% max health for military units here. If he had opted for more of a, and we can see him clearing out a siege here. Always a good thing to do if the Fremen are in the game. You hate giving the Fremen extra spawn points in your territory, and it's always nice to pillage them because you get paid out quite a bit of money. I don't think so he didn't complete that kill. Maybe he's farming them. He's got a big army and it's bored, so he dropped a scav team and he killed all the defenders, and then he left before it was pillaged. So he's just doing some EXP farm, a little bit of money farm with the scav team up there, not going all the way into the pillage. Vernius has now walked over the Harkonnen lands, who they're still peaceful with. We just saw maybe they're trying to clear out a. I thought they were waiting for this this village to open up, but there's actually a renegade base here, which might be a tough fight because that's not too strong of a Vernius army. Okay, and we do see Kater and fight engineers coming. That's what they need to help turn the tide there. The Vernius army can beat anything if they're being properly healed while they do it. Renegade base should be no problem once the fight engineer shows up. And we've got a bit of a standoff. We've got a lot of Fremen army sitting sort of on the borderline, and a whole bunch of Harkonnens sitting on their base. Ziz on the Harks just suffering from some unfortunate map spawn here, and a Fremen neighbor who's eager to punish him for it. Though we do see the Overlord out. That could be nasty. Not a lot of ways for the Fremen to deal with it unless they've got their donkeys online. And indeed, we do see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 donkeys in the Fremen forest. And by donkeys, of course, we mean the mobile turret, which is like a little anti-air missile launcher packed on the back of their little desert donkeys. Call them the donkeys. The donkeys are great. They do decent single target ranged damage, and you can set them up to be the mobile turrets, and then they do pretty decent ranged anti-air. We do see the Vernius clearing up this renegade base, and I wouldn't be surprised if he even annexed this afterwards, though that would make Ziz pretty unhappy, I gotta think. Up north, Corino hanging back, chilling in their base, not sure what they want to do next. Harkonnens heading south. They've got the full army up, and you hate to have your army idle, so they're likely looking for stuff to pillage. You always are when you're the Harkonnens. You've always got an eye on the next thing to pillage. And they have, they have Glossu Raban online as their hero. Do we have a Fremen hero out yet? Yep, there is Othame. Othame is not my favorite because I'm not very good with Fremen, but he's often seen as a very high skill benefit hero. Allows you to do some fun stuff that you otherwise wouldn't be able to do. I like Chani a lot, who gives you that sort of alpha strike capabilities where everybody does a ton of extra damage the first time you hit people with him. But Othame's pretty viable these days too. I see a lot of Fremen pros running Othame rather than Chani. He is clearing out another renegade base up here. Of course, we've got the scav team in effect. You always want to be dropping a scav team when you fight a renegade base. Pays out good money. We do see the Harkonnens down south just pillaging territory, and we did see Vernius annex this territory. Again, basically adjacent to the Harkonnen base. Poor Harks are just suffering here. And Corino managed to move forward and lay claim to, this is what, the Mundu Vale. One of these more forward special regions. Very interesting. House Vernius speaks with House Corino, so we see some potential deals. Vernius accepted a trade from Corino, non-aggression pact, and imperial mandate. So the Sardaukar have been sent to help House Vernius's army, and the non-aggression pact will help House Corino with all of the Vernius technology. Yet another Landsraad up, and we've got labor rights. I don't think that's that big of a deal. It would actually hurt the Harkonnens pretty bad because they have a very expensive army currently, paying 211, and if that doubled to 422, it would be a bit of a kick in the economic pants. Labor rights pretty rough for the Harkonnens, and we've got a Fremen descent on it, which means we're going to see probably at least some Fremen votes on it. Tax negotiations, everybody likes cheaper upkeep, and House Corino could grab it very easily. They're even maxed out on influence. War of Assassins, I don't know if anyone cares. So this fails thanks mostly to the minor houses. They're fortunate because that would have been pretty rough for the Harks. Tax negotiations passes for Corino, making their upkeep a little cheaper. That's actually a pretty big deal for Corino because they tend to have a relatively expensive building upkeep from all of their stuff. I wonder if we could even see that. Does it tell us if we check their resources? Yep. I don't know what the original values are, but regardless, at negative 50%, it's pretty good money. Pretty good money for... Corino is making only 112 money from selling their spice and making 450 Solari just from having really lucrative villages. Really, really lucrative villages. And actually their spice income is bonkers too. 3 fully staffed harvesters, rocking with the full crew training programs and cho manipulation and all that good stuff. Some really powerful economic setup. Second base is coming online with triple blue, double red, and we see he's switching the Emperor's Monument over, so a stronger political play from House Corino. He's moved an embassy into his main base, and he's moved the Emperor's Monument over here. So the triple blue district is going to give him 150 votes. The Emperor's Monument's going to double that, so he's got plus 300 votes in the Landsraad. And because we're not really seeing any Landsraad from anyone else, it's going to allow him to very easily dictate whatever he wants to come up. Now, political governorship kind of stuff is pretty far out of his hands. And I say that because everyone's Landsraad standing is very low. I don't know if anyone's even eligible for any charters yet. Because their Landsraad, I guess there's some. Okay, there's a couple of eligibilities because they're above 250 for Vernius and Harkonnens. But Corino's at 239. They don't have enough. They don't have enough Landsraad standing to even be eligible for charters, even if they could choose who would get it. And of course, to get all the way up to the governorship, you need 450, which is a lot. Corino's currently making 9 every council. So I don't think we're seeing a Dune governorship play anywhere in our immediate future here. We've got some Harks out and about. Hanging out here. Oh, they are pillaging a siege. That's very sensible. I wonder if they're even spec'd into it. They have. So they've got the Savage Cleansing. This is a unique Harkonnen text saying pillaging a siege for the first time gives you an extra 100 authority and immediately reveals another siege. A successful pillage resupplies 25% of the max supply of all the units. So Harkonnen's getting a little extra juice for pillaging sieges, especially because, 100 more authority is really nice to have. Generally, the Fremen don't take kindly to that, and we do have a Fremen force in the east. It's not all of them, because we do have a couple guys up north. I wonder why they're so spread out up there. And even another warrior up there. So he's got at least 3 units or so not part of the main force. But it's always a little tense to see one force right next to the other force, and I don't think we have peace between them. Nope. War between Fremen and Corino and Fremen and Harkonnens right now. Harks are keeping a very tight force all together, ready to fight. They've gone again. They've opted for no ranged units, so there's no squishy part of this force that you could just jump on with your Fremen army. You're gonna have to just raw dog it straight into the executioners and the Cerberus. And the Cerberus, of course, are perfectly happy to die, and the executioners are perfectly happy for anything to die. And we got it was actually an annex here. Harkonnens just laying claim to some territory. Oh, meanwhile, to the west, we've got a bit of a backstab here. Corino has opted to come in and help Vernius liberate Mount Idaho from the Harkonnens. The Harkonnen times go from bad to worse. Poor Ziz. He's probably cursing things and would be right to do so. Meanwhile, I gotta think this is gonna be... Who got the cap on this? It's Vernius. Vernius got it. And Cream is just bored, so he flew down to help. I wonder if he took the... what's the armory for the... So there is a particular Sardaukar buff. Did they get it? Every execution gives 5 influence. He didn't take that one. But I think you also Don't the Corino just gets benefits for fighting in their friends' territories, don't they? Where's it at? Every kill on a territory of a faction in truce gives 15 influence. Okay, that's if you're defending your friends, not if you're helping your friends attack someone. It's a little different. But of course, the main benefit being that Corino has their Imperial command, allowing them to use airfields of factions in a truce. So there he goes flying home, but he could easily fly down and cause trouble. Everyone seems happy to be friends with Vernius, except Vernius decided they were no longer happy to be friends with the Harkonnens. It is war. Nope, I was going to say we do have immediately Corino and the Harkonnens have opted for friendship with one another. Corino offered the Imperial mandate over to the Harkonnens, so we've got, some extra Sardaukar to help out the Harkonnen army here. But we've also got extra Sardaukar to help out the Vernius army. So Sardaukar all over the place. There is still a chunky Fremen force. Fremen appear to have most everything they want, and they're just kind of happy to hang out and keep an eye on the Harkonnens here. If we look at passive hedge, if we look at the hedge totals in general, the Fremen are way ahead thanks to grabbing a number of special regions. One special down to the south, two specials down to the south because they did grab the Crescent Ridge, and then up north they grabbed Sandfall as well, and they've got their craft workshops set up. Come back to you in a second, Landsraad. If we go back to the faction summary, we're making 31 a day on the Fremen. They're sitting on 18k. That's pretty solid. We've got plus 38 a day on Corino. They're sitting on 15k. That's very solid for Corino too. He's also up to 18% Chom, so he is buying. 7% and 7% on the Harkonnens, so the Harkonnens and Vernius, they're buying as well, but not as much. Vernius with only plus 10 daily. We talked about how starved they are for special regions, so this is why it hurts, because everyone else is getting lots of free hedge and Vernius is not. Harkonnens even into the hedge as well. Craft workshops up in the Polar Sink, and did they have another one down south somewhere? Yes, this one, the spacing wreck they've got online with a craft workshop down there too. Anyways, Landsraad pops off extra authority for Corino. I like that. Extra infrastructure for controls for Fremen. I'm not sure they need it, but there it is. And extra pillaging for everybody. All right. The Fremen, I guess they had a bunch of villages that could use a fourth slot in them. And they did not have their research center even built in their main base. So they've got that underway. You love to see... What's this? Oh, okay. So finally we're getting a pillage of the Siege again by Corino up north. Corino also loves to get that extra bonus to their authority, because authority is hard to come by for Corino. If we look at them... oh, he has propaganda offices online too already. Oh, so he's going all in. He's going fast into the cooking. So the propaganda offices are these unique Corino buildings which give you an extra 20% resource production, but take a 1 authority upkeep. And because authority is so hard to come by, you make like 8 a day maybe? So if you're sending out one of those, you're losing, 12%? Every propaganda office is a significant hit to your authority generation, and Corino doesn't make a lot of authority to begin with. So by adding propaganda offices to things, what you're saying is that you're not expecting to do much more expansion beyond what you've already got, but you do want more of the resources. And in this case, and in just about every case that you would use propaganda office, you use it because you want it to juice up your craft workshops. So you find yourself a nice region, you put 2 craft workshops in it, thanks to Urulon, and you put 2 propaganda offices in it, again, thanks to Urulon. And all of a sudden, instead of making 12 hedge a day, they're making 13.6 times 2. And we see Corino up to plus 60 a day on hegemony. So really nice. And he could even try to grab Hulsan here. Does he have the resources for it? He does. He's down to only 7 a day on the hedge because he's sending 5 to propaganda offices. But it's almost enough. He does have enough. He could make this annex too if he wants it. And I see him walking, so we're thinking the same thoughts here. Oh, but we've got Fremen on the front. It looks like Harkonnens are trying to grab stuff in the south. Which one is more progressed? Who did it first? It's hard to say. I didn't see who pulled the trigger, but they're pretty close. 2 regions being liberated by the Fremen up north, and then 1 special region being annexed by the Harkonnens down south. It looks like maybe the Harkonnens are further along. I'm not sure who shot first, but the Fremen definitely were ready to go if the Harkonnens weren't. It's possible that the Fremen started annexing, so the Harkonnens started liberating, so the Harkonnens started annexing just to help. And we do see Cream coming down, Cream World Police with House Corino, and he is helping the Harkonnens fight off the Fremen. TMB's not going to be too happy about that. Cream reading that the Harks are in a bad spot. Ziz needs a little bit of extra help, and then we've got the fight. The Worm in, and they're going. But I feel like this is probably a Harkonnen favored spot. The Harkonnens are a bit chopped up. I don't know. We're battling. Raban has bloodlusted everybody, I think. Has he? Maybe? I don't know. There's a lot of redness. Combat drugs are down. And I think the Harkonnen executioners, though they are very beaten up, are gonna clean this up for sure. And he was, of course, left a guy on the point to finish the cap. Well done. Well played by the Harkonnens. The tough executioner force with the sacrificial Cerberuses was able to beat the Fremen at their own game. And Cream, in his infinite kindness, has saved the Harkonnen territories from being liberated by the Fremen. And of course, that is not kindness. Cream is a horrible, horrible man, and would only do that because it benefits him. He benefits him because he can see that the Fremen are doing quite well. He can see the Harkonnens are not doing well. And when your neighbors are fighting, you don't want one neighbor to just be bashing in the other. You know, you want them to be fighting, to be trading equally, because that weakens them both equally. If one's bashing in the other, then one is gaining a lot more strength, and then eventually could turn and come for you. So I like that play. Savvy political play. I wouldn't expect anything else. So we've seen some setbacks. The Fremen were able to rebuild their army quite quickly. It looks like they're out of water right now, though. If we check, does it tell us the resources? Fremen are currently operating at -11 on the waterfront. That's no bueno. There's a lot of Fremen units running around. We're not sure what they're up to. Harks are just sitting on their new territory, very happy to have claimed the Crescent Ridge themselves. Corino steps up and claims the Imperial Basin. We expect to see Airfield going up first because he wants to try and defend that new territory, but we will expect to see craft workshops and propaganda offices before too long there. If we check out our summary, now we've got equivalent hegemony between the Fremen and the Corino, and more than double daily hedge for Corino. This is what happens. You leave the Corino alone to cackle up there and hatch their schemes, and you get all kinds of trouble. Vernius down south, kind of wandering around. I don't think they haven't really attacked the Harkonnens for anything else. We do see Harkonnen and Vernius are offering trades to each other, and we do have a non-aggression pact between them. So Vernius opting not to take any more Harkonnen land. Though there are a couple juicy options, Vernius sort of stuck in a tough spot back there. Just not ideal land to work with. Not enough special regions to work with. And we could see that penalty in their plus 19 a day hedge, while 25 Fremen, 60 Corino, 30-something on the Harkonnens. And the daily hedge, when you end up in these sort of, standoff scenarios where no one's really able to necessarily crush someone else, at least not yet, the daily hedge you're making is really, really important. If everyone just stands still and stares at each other and does some light border skirmishes, whoever is making the most daily hedge from their craft workshops is the person who is continuing to win more than all the other players. We'll see how that shakes out, though. Random smuggler bounty over on the sale incentive on oppose, so that's just sort of free money for anyone who's got the votes for it. We also have Eye of the Council up, though, which just about everybody except the Fremen are available for. Of course, Fremen can't hold normal charters, though they can hold the governorship if the stars align. Trial of the Great Houses is up, and it would make sense for the Fremen to push this because it would again hurt everybody's Landsraad standing. And by keeping their Landsraad standing down, you keep them. Yep. So the Fremen and the Harkonnens actually vote for this. Keeping people's Landsraad standing down limits the charters that they have available for them. We do see House Corino, of course, picks up the Eye of the Council for themselves. Sale incentive with the bounty against it, of course, fails. But not a lot of people investing in it. Just a bit of Vernius, a bit of Corino. People were sort of saving on their influence. Bounties did get nerfed at one point there, so we see that the bounties are paying 10 Solari per vote granted on it. It used to be 20, I believe, which was even more lucrative. And we've got more combat in the north? Yes, indeed. Pillaging, looks like. Corino just feeling strong, feeling like they've got the world in their oyster. Pillaging a siege here, also pillaging Fremen territory. Fremen are up here and not happy about it, but yep, okay, there's the worm. They're extra not happy about it. TMB wants to fight. It's not an ideal engagement, though. I don't know if he's got enough troops here to properly do this. Though a worm is coming, and it could cause big trouble if it gets on. Ooh. It actually eats some of the Fremen and some of the Corino get away from it without having too bad. I think it's a bad trade for the Fremen again. This is looking pretty positive. Corino laying on these cliffs. Corino starts dropping the orbital bombardment, which I don't think was even necessary. I think they were winning this without it. But the worm strikes again, eats maybe a little bit of both, not devastating anyone in particular, but it's going to be a wipe on the Fremen forces. Heavy casualties, but Corino holds out okay. They're rebuilding 6 guys and are at 55 of 65. Meanwhile, a full loss of everything that the Fremen had. Doesn't look like the Harks are in position to necessarily capitalize on that. They're way to the southwest, pillaging things. Vernius, meanwhile, took the opportunity to try and annex something from the Corino up north. They send their organic units back to heal and get some supplies. Meanwhile, their mechanical units, who don't need that, can sit up on the front lines. We do have Corino, who was pretty beaten, is going to need some time to heal. Is going to need a little time to rebuild his armies, and also needs a little time to finish this siege pillage. But we have the Fremen coming right out of the siege, rallying to it, and because this army is already kind of beleaguered, just a handful of Fremen units are able to cause some pain. Oh, but likewise, here's the reinforcements from Corino coming down, courtesy of the Kronos nearby, able to land, make himself an airfield, and then have the reinforcements drop right there, able to turn the tide yet again in the other way. I think this pillage ought to be done real soon, a couple more days. I loved that play from the Fremen, but Corino was able to sort of turn it back. Harkonnens not picking on the Fremen yet, and we do have Vernius looking like they're going to finish this annex off of Corino to the west. Fremen need to rebuild their army. Harkonnens just wandering around pillaging things. And Vernius looks like he just got antsy and started to want a little bit more territory here. But again, it's going to be tricky to go much further than this, thanks to the Imperial base up here. And you can, of course, can fight bases, but a one-on-one, it's not a good deal unless you've managed to wipe the enemy's army first. Everybody's shooting at this ore ship. This Vernius Thopter came in over here to keep an eye on what was going on. They managed to blow it up. They did get the pillage off on this, and Corino is marching back to lick their wounds. Vernius is marching up north. Is he going to try and contest this? I don't know if he can, because it looks like he would love to have a worm nest, and who wouldn't? But it is deep underneath the Imperial base's guns. He's going for it. We do see the army flying up from Corino. I think this is an overextension. Orbital strikes come down. That's going to weaken them quite a bit. They can and should pull back now, because the Corino army is here. and they have managed to heal up. The defensive benefits are just too much in their favor here, even though there are not like the likes of extra missile turrets or military bases here. Just being able to fight underneath your missile turret. The missile turrets, of course, have 80 attack range and 80 power, which is, and they do AoE damage too on what they hit. So it is a big old slap when you get hit by those missiles, especially into the core of your army where it's doing AoE damage. Tricky, nasty stuff. We do see people pop over into the plus 20k plus on the hegemony near the end of month 6 here. No surprise, it is Fremen and Corino right now. If we check our faction summary, Corino up to 75 daily on the hedge. They are definitely in the pole position here. No, I don't care about your game summary, I want faction summary. There we are. 31 daily hedge on the Harks, 25 daily on Vernius, 25 daily on the Fremen. I mean, Corino is making as much as everybody else in the lobby put together. And the reason that that daily hedge matters so much, again, is because you kind of run out of regions to take on the map. You know, there are still regions available, but the non-special regions paying out only, you know, a single boost of 600 hegemony is just not that big of a deal. It'll matter once you get to the end game, and maybe you need that little extra boost to put you ahead. But what really matters in these sort of mid to late game scenarios that we're in right now is how much daily you can put together off of all of your craft workshops. And yep, right on the front lines here, craft workshop, propaganda office. Corino is cackling on some really good territory. They've got a nice sort of defensive boost up here. It's going to be hard for Vernius to break any of this, even if he wants to try and take this little village down here, which is sort of technically out of missile range. It's so close, it's really tough to deal with, because you could have the Corino army up here in missile range, kind of shooting in them, and then if you want to engage into that army, suddenly you're in missile range. So it's still really, really hard to deal with to fight under a main base like that. Yet under the Landsraad online, gear regs, interesting, we'll see who that goes on. So Cream was afraid that it would go on him, so he's made it affect everybody. Another wise decision. Likewise with the water regulation. This is a rough one. -1 authority production per controlled village. This can really devastate your ambitions of taking further territory. Diplomatic Congress also. We'll see how that shakes out. People have time to chat and talk about it. It's a big old Harkonnen force down south. Fremen are still reconstituting their armies, and they're actually doing just fine on manpower, so they should be all right in a moment. And they are maxed out. They're 65 of 65 here. Vernius over here staring it down with Corino. What do we get? Gear regs did pass, but it's on everybody, so it hardly matters that much. Water regs did pass thanks to oh no, elected faction. Oh, I'm sorry. So Corino put this on not everybody, but rather just a single faction, and then Corino plus the Harkonnens stuck it on the Fremen to keep them from expanding. Everybody else gets to keep their authority. The Fremen also, courtesy of the Fremen, managed to get a truce with everybody. Interesting times. And it looks like we're seeing some Fremen expansion, perhaps. How are our authority banks? The Fremen are kind of low on authority and -4 daily. That's no good for them. Everybody else is sitting almost maxed out on their authority, so lots that they could annex if they wanted to. We see the Harkonnens marching north. Not surprised. I think this would be a jewel to have. Get the Imperial Basin both out of Corino hands and into Harkonnen hands. It's a no-brainer. I think that makes a lot of sense. Just to the east, we have the Fremen, now at peace with everybody, but of course, peace with Fremen is fleeting because they don't suffer particularly bad penalties for breaking the truce. They don't have any Landsraad standing, so they don't care if the Landsraad thinks that they're betrayers. So Fremen are always on the verge of backstabbing anybody because it's really sort of almost a benefit for them. They lose a little bit of their spice production for a month, but they get a little bit of extra fighty power. And we see Vernius up north thinking about pushing in again. Corino's got a fully sauced army here. He's gone for Wensisia, which explains this vast count of conscripts we see. When Sissia is the boost for the conscripts, give you extra training slots if you've got conscripts training, give all your conscripts extra armor and power. She takes less damage for all the allies that are around her, just lets you do the larger sort of human wave attack. And in comes the Harkonnens, laying claim to the southern region. They are chopping up this airfield. Are Corino going or not? I mean, Corino can still see to the west. That Vernius is there too. I don't know if they're going to commit to it. Vernius backing away, coming forward, backing away, posturing. Corino just sitting on their base. If they wanted to fly south, they could have. And it looks like they've opted not to. Going to take a more cautious approach. It's always very dangerous when the rest of the lobby is keeping a close eye on you. Very dangerous to take risky engagements, because if your army gets wiped, suddenly there's blood in the water and everybody else can jump on you and pull more stuff off of you. Whereas if you just lose a region or two that is the most exposed and you maintain your army, everybody still needs to be very cautious about pushing into your more defended regions that might be harder to take. Whereas if you've got no army, then no region's really defended. We see Fremen marching north, mostly doing pillaging around the various lands. And we do have Vernius going in. Harks are annexing there. Vernius coming in. They want this worm nest. Corino's got a full stack sitting on top of his base. It looks like they're flying. One guy flew. Is anybody else flying? A single conscript swordman flew up. Okay, there's everybody else. That happens sometimes. Corino engaging, which I think is wise. They ought to be able to win this fight, and we do see Vernius use their flagship to teleport out. The folder relay, of course, has the ability... Will it show me? Yep. Space folding teleports all Vernius units at long range around it towards any region connected to the nodal network. That's your get-out-of-jail-free card if you're Vernius. If you delve a little too greedily or too deep, which they certainly did there, you can teleport out. There's a bit of a long cooldown on that. It is a cooldown of 10 days, you know, a third of a month, so they got to be a little cautious. They can't go totally crazy. We do have Fremen up north. Look like they're clearing out more renegades. Harkonnens have grabbed the Imperial Basin for themselves, so they've got that craft workshop in their favor now. And we see the Harkonnens have overtaken Corino on total hedge count. Corino started annexing up north, but Vernius looks like they're poking in too, maybe. Vernius... Okay, Vernius does have the ore ship here, so they would have seen the army, Corino army, march up. They're not all the way engaging. We've got 2 annexes going through up north. So Corino choosing to use their stockpile of authority, not let it go to waste. They're still sitting on 100 after this, but just get a couple extra regions under control, and there's still a whole bunch more empty ones they could grab in a pinch if needs be. Daily chome-wise, still 60 for Corino, though the Harkonnens have climbed up to plus 40. We're at 29% on the chome market, which is real nice for Corino. They're gonna be tough to deal with. You always the chome market is doubly potent for Corino. Of course, if you hit 30% chome ownership, you're pulling in an extra 15% military power for all of your units. Corino also has their unique tech chome manipulation, which gives them 0.5% for every 1% of chome, 0.5% of power for every 1% of chome shares that they own. So if they pull up 30, they're getting an extra 15% for this. And I think we just saw it live. Valuable trinkets got obfuscated. So long to everybody's daily hegemony cooking. Vernius says they're getting the short end of the stick, and they certainly are. They've got 2 special regions and unlikely to get a third anytime soon. They can't just let the rest of the lobby... Excuse me. I'm getting sleepy here because this is going to be a long game. Vernius can't just let the rest of the lobby cook more hegemony daily from them. He says now we can focus on one person at least. I'm not entirely sure what he means by that, but Vernius accepted a trade from House Corino. Non-aggression pact and imperial mandate. Okay. peace between Corino and everyone else now that Corino does not have their daily hedge cook. Ooh, you hate to see it as Corino too, because you really rely on that daily, the daily from your craft workshops to pull towards a victory. The good news is they had a good long time of that paying off for them, so it's put them in a decent enough position. We'll see how the rest of the game plays out. Landsraad's up. Labor rights is interesting. Speaker of the Council is almost certainly Corino if they want it, and I'm certain they do, because Speaker of the Council is a fine position to have. Funny enough, you know, Dune governorship is still way out of reach. Corino's at 287 Landsraad. You need 450 to be eligible for governorship. So we might see them making friends with everybody, trying to do whatever they can. So people tried to oppose it, but Corino single-handedly overpowers everybody else in the lobby, dumping everything against them. Oh, no, Vernius got greedy. Vernius put 300 of their votes over on the tax negotiations, whereas 300 of their votes additionally on the oppose would have prevented Corino. And it looks like Harkonnens and Fremen dutifully put all theirs on oppose, and Vernius stabbed him in the back and stole a charter that they wanted a little bit more. Oh, I'm sure there's some hard words being exchanged in Discord about that, but there it is. You get a little greedy sometimes. Maybe Vernius thought they could have their cake and eat it too, but they just got the cake. All right, what's the game plan now? You know, Vernius says finally we can focus on somebody. Well, really, if you can't make daily hedge, the person who's most likely able to just annex the most territory towards a hedge victory is the Fremen, without a doubt. And that is mostly the case because they get a pretty awesome bonus of authority. They get bonuses from paying their spice tax. They get bonuses from just all kinds of stuff. We can see they're spending 4 authority on treaties. They're spending 7 authority on alliances with the various sieges around the map, and they still make only 1 less authority than everybody else in the lobby. So that massive Fremen authority allowing them, if he wanted to, he could cancel some of those alliances, cancel some of those treaties, and be way ahead of everyone on authority generation. Meanwhile, we see Corino coming back here, busting down all the propaganda offices so that he has authority generation yet again. He is pillaging a siege over here. Fremen are starting to just annex territory where they could get it. Makes sense. Harkonnens pillaging, and we've got Vernius in the south. Ooh, I'm yawning again. I'm so sleepy. I don't know why. It's like 3 o'clock for me today when I'm recording this. I need my afternoon nap. And again, we might want to settle in here because without the craft workshops, this game's going to go the distance. The good news is we're likely to see quite a bit of more conflict, I would expect. So we're going to move towards a slow glide towards someone's victory just by nature of paying the spice tax, of course. Every time you pay your spice tax, you get plus 1,000 to your hegemony. I'm guessing every single player likely has a research center at this point, which pays out an extra 20% when you fulfill your spice contract. So really you're getting 1,200 every time you pay your spice tax. Your spice tax comes up it's 20 days, right? I'm pretty sure it's 20 days unless I'm crazy. It might be 25 or 30. We'll double check that. Currently it's 15 days away. I think it's every 20, 25 maybe. Every time, anyways, basically once a month you pay your spice tax, you'll get 1,200. So slowly, ever so slowly, all we got to do is sit here for 5 more months, and these guys will get the extra 6,000 something that they need. We do still have a very light daily income. Oh my goodness, I didn't even think about it. We have a very light daily income on House Corino with their plus 13 hegemony. But what I did not think about at the moment was that the Harkonnen craft workshop is actually unlocked on their tier 4 tech, not the tier 3 tech where everybody else's is. So the Harkonnens still have all of their daily hegemony. Their craft workshops still work. Oh my goodness, I can't believe I wasn't thinking about that. Ziz is cooking 40 a day. 13 a day from Corino, and that is because of their Imperial Monument that pays out 10 hegemony per day, and they're getting a little boost onto that from their research center. But the 40 a day for Harkonnens and none for anybody else is kind of a big deal. And what that tells me is that the lobby is going to try to just kill the Harkonnens sooner rather than later. Let me see some Harkonnen assassins running out. That's funny. You almost, as the Harks, you almost don't even like that getting obfuscated because it just puts such a bullseye, a target on your back. And we do see the Fremen invading in the east here, trying to take the Crescent Ridge away from the Harkonnens. We've got a big Vernius army in the west. Not sure what they want to do, but they're there, ready to go. And we see a whole bunch of neutral Fremen raiders come from the Sieches to help defend this. Oh, I don't know if it's great to engage into this. This is going to be a tough Fremen force to crack, but the Harkonnens are marching east. And up north, we do have Corino trying to take back the Imperial Basin. We've got some nasty toxic stink on them, courtesy of the Harkonnens, but if there's not an army to back it up, Corino will be just fine to ride that out. Harks are moving east. Looks like they want to contest the Fremen here. We see a probe setup go down so they could see invisible units, but the Fremen have backed off into their own territory just outside of the probe setup. So right now there's only the neutral siege helpers in there, and you can't see the actual Fremen army, which is right next to it. And funny enough, the Fremen actually have missile turrets all over this borderline, so it's really a horrible place to attack right now. There's a little bit of extra rock shelf here. Let the Fremen build units from these other villages, or build their buildings from these other villages right on the border. This is a lost cause. You got to give this up, Harks. 4 missile turrets in addition to the army is going to be too much, and I don't know if he realizes that, but here we go. We're headed in. Harks quickly clean up the neutral units, and it's up to the Fremen to decide how much they want to engage with this. I feel like the 4 missile turrets on the border there are gonna can tilt it in their favor. I'd like to see them go. Let's see some blood. Though, counterpoint is by being able to kill those early neutral siege helpers, it does kind of jack up the Harkonnen units with some extra early bloodthirst, whatever it is. Some extra stacks on their executioners, which might make them a little more tough than they would otherwise be at the start of a fight. War of Assassins, no big deal. I don't think anyone's being assassinated, but you never know. Judge of the Council, also no big deal at this point, except I imagine Corino's going to take it just because they can. Nobody else is really doing anything in the way of producing extra influence or extra votes, so it's all Corino all the time in the Landsraad. And everybody, no, control markets do not pass. And we've got war. The Fremen have gone in. I think this is a Fremen favored fight. Let's see it. The Overlord moves in, and so the Overlord will automatically draw the aggro from the missile batteries, allowing the Harkonnen land forces to fight on their own merits. It's pretty even so far, but I think it's going Fremen favored. There's a lot of very low executioners, but thanks to their meat armor, nope. The executioner meat armor is actually able to keep them up long enough to blend their way through the front line. But a bunch of sleeper agents. The Fremen are able. The Harkonnen force is so low that they kind of have to retreat because the Fremen still have a number of donkeys and skirmishers, and we might see the Overlord's taking a bit too many hits, and an EMP went down to slow it so it couldn't escape easily enough, and the mobile turrets and the regular turrets managed to pick off the Overlord, and the Fremen are going to take that win. To the west, we see Vernius jumping on top of the Harks To the north, the Fremen backed, or not the Fremen, the Corino backed off. I don't know if he maybe overstayed his welcome in the toxic sauce there. We didn't see why he backed off all the way. Clearly he was taking a lot of damage from the toxic vapors and needed to heal. Though typically you would see maybe sort of a rotation where like one guy stays and then another guy bounces in or out. Maybe it was trouble because of this missile battery on the border. Might have been causing trouble for him trying to stay in on the point. So we got a liberate here, not an annex, courtesy of the Fremen. We do have an annex from Vernius, finally grabbing some territory. And it looks like we had some territory abandoned by the Harkonnens. Are they getting assassinated? It's possible. I don't know if it would tell me anywhere. But we did see, so this was just freed by your faction. This must have been liberated by somebody, not abandoned. Oh, Vernius must have liberated it when we weren't watching. Interesting. We do have a Harkonnen rebuild down south. Lots more executioners. I mean, so they're losing 2 of their specials, but we do have Corino climbing up, 25.7. They are, however, only liberating here, and there's more Harkonnen stink. Now, the Harkonnen stink is the toxic vapors. All non-mechanical units lose health regen and lose 30% of their health every day. And we see Corino says, no thanks, and they're flying on out. They leave a couple guys behind. I don't know if that was intended or not, but we shall see. And they did kill that border turret, probably, which was causing them the trouble. Vernius pressing in even more deeply to the Harkonnen lands. Harkonnens fallen back to defend Carthage, which is perilously located in the very center of the map, open to attack on all sides. Now, this would be very concerning if this was a Corino annex, but it's just a liberate. Still, Corino at almost 26k is looking pretty dangerous. So, Fremen are marching north. They're a little uncomfortable with this Corino stuff right now. I'm guessing, what's our authority bank look like? A mid 280 authority on Corino. So what you want to do in this situation is you kind of want to wait for one more spice tax in 17 days, right? One more spice tax puts you from 25.8 all the way up to 2,700. 2,700 is so close to victory, right? If you took this annex here for the plus 16, all of a sudden you're at 28.6, and you just need 2 more regular regions annexed to win. So if Corino is able to sit on everything they have, if they're able to annex what they just liberated from the Harkonnens, and then any 2 of these 3 empty regions in their backfield, now that might be a bit much, because that's going to cost an awful lot of authority to do that. This guy's 169, this guy's 208, this guy's 232, you know. Hence one of the weaknesses for Corino doing their this sort of end game land grab kind of hedge strategy. But they're still in a pretty nice position. Nobody else has that kind of potential for a win yet. And we do still see Vernius hanging out along the Harkonnen borders. Harks marching south, whether to annex or pillage, some combination thereof. And we have stuff getting pillaged by the Fremen, and Corino is not too happy with it. So we have an orbital strike going down on the Fremen pillaging force. Now, the reason you don't want these things pillaged is because if you were going to do that kind of hedge boom that I just explained, you can't have things be pillaged, because when something gets pillaged, you can no longer annex it for the next 20 days or so. Now, the timing for that is probably fine for Cream, but you still don't want these pillaged. You want these kept free, and you certainly don't want them annexed by the Fremen, which that one is. So that does get the annex does go off there. We do have the Corino coming in to take this one. He just doesn't want to give up any more territory to the Fremen. The Fremen, of course, with that annex also sort of close the gap on them and are sitting very close. The Fremen are a much... we do see Harkonnen just annexing this empty territory down south. Everybody's looking to scoop up the empty stuff on the map. Because when the empty stuff is available, someone could grab them really quickly, because it's very fast to annex an uncontrolled territory. It takes like a day and a half to complete the annexation. But if it's controlled territory, if someone else owns it, then it's a much longer timer to complete the annex. It's like 7 days, something like that. So it gives the lobby a lot more time to react to someone doing a last second sort of hedge boom kind of strategy, if they're having to hedge boom off of taking stuff from other players, which is much slower. If they've got empty territories, sort of neutral territories, they could grab those real quick before you can react. So that's why we see everybody sort of hoovering up anything they could get their hands on. Landsraad coming around, a water sellers union for House Corino if they want it, though it's not that big of a deal. All factions suffer no benefits from Chome ownership. That would probably be nice for everybody, because right now Corino's getting some mad benefits. Landsraad witnesses for guards for everybody. Guards are quite strong, especially when fighting in their own territory, so this is always a boon for anybody who finds themselves on the defensive. I wonder what our Chome market looks like currently. 30% on Corino, and Vernius has climbed their way up to 27%. Certainly no Chome victory in the cards, but Vernius and Corino both just gonna enjoy the benefits of Chome board membership, at least in the very near future here. People talking, people thinking. Harkonnens have accepted a non-aggression pact from the Fremen. Water Sellers Union for the Harkonnens. Nobody voted on it. The House's minor decided the Harks should have it. Sale incentive. At the start of the next council, lose 20 Solari per Chome share. That passed because of Corino's votes. I'm not sure why they would want that to pass. All factions suffer. I don't know. I'm a little confused by that one. Maybe he misread it. So there's one where it says, you could sell your shares to get what is it? Hegemony? Maybe he misread it and he thought it was that one, because that would have been perfect for him. He would have loved that one. A little extra shot of hegemony at this point in the game is exactly what you would want. But no, this is a bad thing for him. At the start of the next council, he will lose Solari because he has a lot of Chome shares. I don't know. The amount of times that you guys have seen me misvote or vote for the wrong option or just misread something. There's a lot going on in the game. and you don't always pay as close attention to what's going on in the Landsraad as you ought to. Harkonnen's continuing to pick up stuff in the south. Corino still at 26.5 in the lead position. Spice tax is coming around. Everyone's making an awful lot of spice. The Harkonnens actually are a tad short on their contract. Are they going to make it in time? The Harkonnens might not make their spice contract. 5 days. They need to come up with an extra 300 or so. Oh, that doesn't feel good. That doesn't feel good. They're just not making enough spice. Hopefully they're oppressing. He's only got one spice field online at the moment. He might be able to get this one online, but it's going to take a while. It does still have a refinery in it. Funny enough, the old refinery did not break all the way. Oh, we'll see. It's gonna be rough for the Harkonnen dreams if they don't hit their spice tax, and they look way too short on it. Harks are gonna miss their tax 100%. Everybody else is gonna hit it just fine. That's gonna put them well into last place on the hegemony, which they already are. Oh, we do have an annex on a special region from the Fremen. That's gonna put them very close. That's going to be combined with spice tax. That's going to catapult them right into the lead. 27.2 spice tax in 2 days, going to put them at 28.4. It's a tad light still. He needs another special region. He could take, there's a normal region he could potentially take. Maybe he could worm over here and try to take this one in 3 days? Oh, I don't know. That's the best bet, is to load everybody up on the worm, try to head over here into this desert, see if you could annex this before anybody notices the sneakiness that you're up to. I would love to see that. I don't know if he's got the authority for it. No, he's low. He's empty on authority. 28.4. So I think he might have pulled his trigger a tad too soon. Corino up here is pillaging a siege. Pillaging sieges pay out a little bit of authority, so it's a really good thing to do as well. Harkonnens don't like this, and they're coming in. We are seeing, again, combat here. And again, this territory is very Fremen favored due to a ludicrous amount, and he's even added extra, a ludicrous amount of Fremen missile turrets. 6 missile turrets firing in right now. It's just too much. It's too much for the Harkonnens to do. The Harkonnen army is tough, but 6 missile turrets is too many to deal with. It's an easy cleanup from the Fremen here. They're going to wipe out this Hark army and sit on this. But they are still a ways away from a hedge victory. They would need 1 annex and 1 more spice tax, and they got 22 days. All right, so it's got to be 25 days on the spice tax. They cleanly clear out the Harkonnens here, and this feels pretty well secured to me. Are they able to get up to the Imperial Basin? They got to be thinking about it. Oh, but again, they're too light on the authority, right? They're at 52 authority. The Fremen to annex the basin would need 235, yeah. Ooh. Yvain says 2v1, we could just kill either person. So Corino and Vernius are staring at each other up top. But Cream's got to be thinking about his options here. And he is keeping watch on this. Okay, so the Fremen come over here. We immediately have an orbital strike on them. And the Kronos comes down to provide access. He doesn't need to worry. That may have been a feint, as it were, because we see the Fremen go all in the middle here, but I think this is also too much. 253, you know, they're just hurting from an empty authority bank. And this is the point in the game where you say to yourself, oh, if we hadn't had that one council resolution come through that gave you minus 20 days of authority generation, they would have had just what they needed. So he's trying to get an annex off, because if he gets an annex off, he's got Jamis to give extra authority via the Sand Killers. If he gets the annex off, he would have that a shot in the arm of extra authority that he needs for things. But I'm a little surprised there's nobody piling on. No, we've got Vernius piling on to Corino. Corino down here trying to grab their own special region. It's not going to be quite enough for Corino. Fremen are coming over to contest it. Corino might get it, but it's not going to win for him. He does get it. It puts him at 29.5. But again, it's not quite enough. He needs 1 more region. Is he on it? He's on it here. But even he is authority challenged at this point, right? He needs 196. He's got 166. He needs 30 more. That's a little more than 3 days in order to have enough to start annexing this. Is there any free authority on the map from points of interest that he could grab? Because remember, he does have Hasimir Fenring, so if it's anywhere on the map that he could see, he could grab it. I don't see any points of interest that are handing out authority at this time. Diplomatic Congress. This would be a huge win for Corino to Diplomatic Congress. Oh my god, I can't even believe it. And I'm pretty sure... No, they got to stop this. So they need to realize that if Corino gets this, he's in a huge winning position. They can't let him peace out, because this cancels the siege that's on him from Vernius. It stops the Fremen from contesting the Imperial Basin down there. Architectural surveys, meanwhile, does open up the opportunity of just someone getting straight up base killed. Now, Corino, of course, is tough to do that against because they have 2 bases, and they're certainly the primary target right now. Chome dilution comes up to sort of ruin people's Chome board membership. We'll see if that happens. All right, so people did work together to... No, they were trying to give it to the Fremen, but Corino was managed to give it to Vernius. So what he cares about is that stops the Vernius pillage up there, or stops Vernius up there. Meanwhile, we lost the guy... Ooh, there's a big fight. There's a big fight. So I thought Corino was flying out, but they looks like they stayed. They're currently chasing Othame, and I think they're going to get him. But I don't know that if they've got the power left in this army to fight. There's a handful of Harkonnens just causing a ruckus. Where's the actual Harkonnen army? Okay, the Harkonnen army has gone into the Liberate here. And everyone sees that this spot on the map is the danger spot. So we can see the Fremen are racing to get there just to try to keep it out of Corino hands. If you could even pillage it, yep, if you pillage it, it'll be locked out for 20 days. So that's just what they're trying to do. Trying to keep the Corino army off of the point. Boom, the pillage is done, so it now gets devastated. Nobody can take this for 20 days. There is another region over here in the east. I think it's pretty expensive. 340 is too much for Corino. I don't think it's quite enough. We do have a nuke coming down on top of the village that the Harkonnens were trying to take. That's... Ooh, does some good damage because the Harkonnens were standing a tad too close when they watched that nuke. However, it does put the Devastate on it. 4 days where nobody can interact with this. Now, unfortunately, I think Corino needs more than 4 days. Well, maybe not. 9 days on the spice tax, actually. My God, that might have won them the game. That nuke might be perfectly timed. I think the 4 days plus the however much they need in order to get this, all Corino's got to do is pay a spice tax at this point because nobody's liberating anything. Vernius lost their liberate up there thanks to the truce. Harkonnens lost their liberate down here. Fremen are coming back in for something, but it might be too late. 8 days on the spice tax. I think Cream might be able to carry it with the spice tax. He's done a fabulous job here, and there's been a little bit of sort of indecisiveness amongst the rest of the lobby. I can't believe they let this diplomatic congress get ruined. Everybody should have talked about it and put all their votes on the Fremen. This ruined Vernius. Otherwise, Vernius would have liberated this up here, and this would not have been a problem. So that's a fault from the lobby for not discussing that one particularly well. 6 days of remaining time. I think he's fine. I think he's A-okay. I think it's a GG. Yep. Yvain on Vernius calls it GG. 6 days to spice. Fremen are coming in to try to help, but even if they... And I think they're going to lose this fight. And even if they won, it's not enough time. Harks are just stuck down here, irradiated. They're going in now, but it's going to be too long. They don't have enough time. The Liberate's happening. Duration 6 more days. Nope, I think it's a spice tax win for House Corino, right? We talked about what an incredibly strong start they have. Corino gets really extra benefits from strong villages around their main base, and they had really good ones right off the rip there, allowing them to sort of catapult into some really strong financials. They had a lot of space around them with some good regions. All of the conflict in the early game was down south. Again, a weakness for Corino is a relatively weaker early game when all you've got is your conscripts that can just sort of not trade particularly well into the likes of a lot of enemy troops. So that early game weakness was avoided by just sort of the benefit of spawning up north where nobody wanted to cause trouble. Vernius, to his credit, came up here and tried to fight, but the very safe back base drop here protected these regions really well and just didn't give any space for Vernius to take anything up there. Interesting game. I think it comes down to really an error on the Landsraad standing. The diplomatic Congress was enough to skew the favor of things. It was also an excellent nuke, right? Timed very well. So an interesting part about nukes is if you nuke someone who is capturing your village, right? So the progress bar is filling up as they're capturing it. If you nuke them too late in the process, obviously the person that is trying to capture the village will die. More nukes are going off. I think he nuked himself. Obviously the person trying to capture a village will die from the nuke, but as long as there's a little bit of progress still in the bar, and it takes time for that progress to drain out, as long as there's a little bit of progress, another unit could sprint up post-nuke and jump back on that village. And if the progress bar still had any space in it, you can start pushing it towards towards an annex or towards a liberate again, because it's still in progress. If it falls off entirely from being in progress, then it has that devastated debuff on it, meaning you can't start a new liberate or annex on it for 5 more days. So if you need to keep people from taking your village, you have to nuke them at just the right time where you've sort of wasted their time, and the nuke has enough time for that progress bar to fall off. Otherwise, the Harkonnens could have sprinted back out there and finished that cap. But it was timed perfectly, and the spice tax had time to come around, and there we go. Hegemony victory, just barely. Look at that, very close with the Fremen. If they had found a little more space, they would have been right there. Victory for, I keep saying Hedge victory for Cream on House Corino. A hard fought battle. Developments about as you'd expect. With the Vernius in the game, it's always sort of topsy-turvy. Vernius peaked at like 115 knowledge at one point. That must have been like a combat where he dropped one of his operations on it. Mostly he was sitting at like 84 knowledge. Just 84 knowledge. Just 84. Probably more than the entire rest of the lobby combined. Economy. We saw some big money production from Corino at various states there. Vernius did pretty good on the money, but they didn't have the terrain to really capitalize on it. Chom shares was mostly in Corino's favor since they had that early easy money. Hegemony was really neck and neck for the whole game. Interesting. Allied sieges, politics. We did see, of course, the politics went pretty heavily in Corino favor since he opted for the triple blue district. And then military, you could see the veteran players very early in the game, right around mid-month 3, and just about everybody's got a 65 CP army, right? And keeps it almost for the entire game. If you die, you rebuild your army right away. One problem we often see with newer players or people that are in a little less competitive spaces is they have much smaller armies for longer. They're not investing in either the defense or the offense of having the larger army and bullying or not being bullied by your neighbors. You see pros play and they make big armies real soon because you just can't afford to get run over and not have a response to it. And there wasn't even that much combat, right? We saw plenty of skirmishes between folks, here and there, but for the most part, everyone's sitting on fully sauced armies because you need to, even as just a deterrent for your greedy neighbors. And there we go, folks. That's a game for us. Hope you enjoyed watching it. That one was a banger. A bit slow, but with a nice spicy payoff at the end. Pretty good. Pretty good. That was a fun one. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.